Chapter 133. Vents. Summary. The tech squad is in the vents, with eyes on the prize. Nothing could go wrong.
Do I really have to?
Denki whined. They were settled in the vents above the room with the statue. It was in one of two boxes that looked the right size, though they couldn't tell which. The room itself was secured with a pressure-sensitive floor that would sound the alarm if it detected a change. The alert system was integrated pretty thoroughly into the ship's systems, so unless they wanted to spend an hour disabling it, they'd just have to live with it, which is part of the reason Denki's chest was wrapped by Black Whip in a makeshift harness.
The last time I was lowered into somewhere Mission Impossible style, I was almost burned to a crisp.
This whole thing was starting to look concerningly like the incident which shall not be mentioned, not helped by the fact that Denki may or may not have hidden his modified murder virus in his comm unit. At the time, he'd thought it could be a good backup plan and opportunity to test out the modified code. Now, it was looking like a bad omen.
"Stop complaining,"
Mei said, eyes still focused on the datapad in her hands.
"You didn't even get singed that time. And you're the only one who won't be bothered by the taser crates."
Denki deflated. He knew he wasn't getting out of this, just delaying the inevitable. A familiar tune once again filled the air as Izuku lowered Denki from a vent. Black Whip twisted as it brought Denki to the first box. Thankfully, all he had to do was unlatch the top, electricity so faint running up his arms it barely tingled, and the lid slid open. Inside was not the crystal figure they were looking for, but a plant. And really, there was no other choice for what happened next. They'd been guessing beforehand that pressure sensors were involved, so the tech squad had been loaded up with deceptively heavy accessories to use once they snatched their prize. But those added up to exactly the weight of their target, not enough for the plant with leaves that shimmered like fireflies. Instead, Denki slipped off his boot. He moved slowly, lifting the clear cylinder the plant was housed in as he lowered his boot in its place. The ship's logs had confirmed that sensors weren't able to pick up on smaller changes, but he still hovered there for a moment, waiting for some alarm to sound. When nothing happened, he told Izuku to move to the next box as he slipped the plant vial into the pocket meant for the statue. He'd figure something else out for it. The next box did indeed have the crystal statue. It was definitely supposed to be of a person, but Denki was having trouble telling apart their hair and their arms. But it didn't really matter in the end. He made the exchange without issue. The figure shoved, totally not suspiciously, down the front of his ruffly shirt. It was only when the trio started back down the vents that the problem arose.
Is it just me, or did it suddenly get really, really hot in here? Izuku asked. Not just you, Denki said. I think someone turned up the heat.
Mei made a worried noise.
"We're in the main vent system. All the ship's temperature control comes from air moving through here and dissipating as it gets moved through the offshoots, which means the main system gets dangerously hot when anything big needs to be heated."
"Shit,"
Denki breathed, already feeling sweat beating on the side of his neck.
"The cooling systems in the undersuits can only do so much without the helmets to seal the system," Izuku pointed out. "We need to get out of here. Right now."
That Denki was definitely on board with. He was slightly regretting giving up his shoe at this point.
"Which way to the exit?"
"Fourth opening on the right, then 2 left, then next right, then 8th left, then..."
Denki cut Mei off.
"I can't remember anything of what you just said. Just start going and try not to leave me behind."
As they started crawling through the rapidly heating vents, Izuku let the others know what was going on. Mr. Middle Management on comm sounded exasperated and insisted on readying their pickup ship. As the temperature rose, so did the amount of sound they were making as they focused on making it to their planned exit point. So, maybe a good call on that guy's part.
"We might need some help, guys," Izuku said. "We're not exactly being stealthy."
Oh, Mina, can you cause some sort of distraction so Kat and I can sneak out?
Ochako whispered in Japanese through the comms.
Maybe?
Mina hesitantly answered after a moment.
Just give me a sec.
Breathing was getting a little hard as Denki followed Mei right.
"We really don't have time here." "Stop complaining, Sparky. Pink Cheeks and I are in position. Raccoon Eyes is talking to some guard. Not sure what the..."
Denki heard the smile in Ochako's voice, which, given he felt like he'd stuck his face in an oven, made him want to throttle her.
"Oh, you go, girl."
"ETA on the help?"
Izuku asked.
"We're heading over now,"
Katsuki said.
"Cameras should be pretty distracted."
The air was silent for a minute, aside from the clangs and grunts they made as they practically crawl-sprinted through the vents. At this point, Denki was half tempted to just pick a random vent and crawl out, but that would lead them to jumping into whatever was on the other side blind. Who knew what they'd find themselves in the middle of if they did that? As if the universe was out to spite him, just as he had that thought, from just in front of him came the sound of tearing metal, and he was falling through a no longer attached grate and into the room below. She couldn't believe she was doing this. If she tried to do something like this back in Class 1A, Mina's pretty sure Aizawa would have given her the disappointed look to end all disappointed looks. But hey, who said impromptu dance performance couldn't be a valid tactic on an undercover stealth-based mission? It was currently keeping quite a bit of attention on her. Most seemed to be enjoying what they thought was hired entertainment, much like the live music. She was certain her fan in charge of cameras would have his eyes on her and not her crew members sneaking through the halls. It had only taken a short conversation with the guard that had escorted them to the washroom earlier, framed as her wanting to do something for that brother of his that was such a big fan, to get the floor cleared and a familiar song rolling out from the band. Her dress made it so she had to change up her usual style. No way was she pulling off any breakdancing moves right now. It wasn't a problem for her, though. She'd taken more than a few different dance classes back home, and she'd been introduced to even more styles while part of the Oxiana Felions. Her movements were graceful, utilizing the same flow that made her dangerous with a scythe. Honestly, she was just trying to enjoy herself while it lasted. Things had been going smoothly up until now, and while some other teams might be able to recover, she knew that this was the first stumble before absolute chaos. So she did her best to have fun while keeping herself open to bolt at a moment's notice. A few minutes into her performance, something unexpected happened. A small gasp came from somewhere in the crowd, and she saw a hand point up. Without missing a beat, Mina slipped into a movement that would let her look up to see glitter. A squall of fine glitter floated down through the air like diamond dust along a warm current. Right, the heating was turned on. They hadn't been expecting that, obviously, given the tech squad was scrambling through the vents right now. But it also meant that Ochako couldn't have known the airflow would pick up before their grand escape. No one had been able to talk her out of stuffing all the vent gremlins' pockets with organic glitter and giving them the orders to dump it in as many major vent grates as they could. Mei was supposed to crank up the air conditioning to max during their escape, in order to blast an avalanche of glitter everywhere to confuse people. But, for one reason or another, the heating had been turned on, and warm air was gently flowing through the vents, picking up wisps of glitter as it went. As the glitter was reaching her, Mina kicked off into a twirl, sending streams of shimmering air dancing along with her. The silver details in her dress shimmered right alongside it as the fabric twirled. Her flowing sleeves directed the airborne flakes as she reached her arms out to get a better control of her spin. The crowd gasped and cheered as she danced among the falling glitter, not noticing how she had to let out small amounts of acid on the soles of her feet to keep from slipping on the piling glitter. She'd have to pick up Ovoti when they made a break for it. But for now, she effortlessly continued her show with a genuine smile spread across her face.